Hello, everyone, and welcome to our weekly Power Lounge. This is your place to hear authentic conversations from those who have power to share. My name is Amy Vaughan, and I am the owner and Chief Empowerment Officer of Together Digital, a diverse and collaborative community of women who work in digital and choose to share their knowledge, power, and connections. You can join the movement at togetherindigital.com. And today I am so thrilled because we are diving into something that has the power to truly revolutionize the way that you do business and life. And that is gratitude with action in action. I am thrilled to welcome fellow business owner and dear friend, Rachel DesRochers, a remarkable entrepreneur who has built multiple successful ventures with gratitude at the core. From the Grateful Grams to the Incubator Kitchen Collective, Rachel shows us how leading with purpose creates ripples of positive change in business and community. For our live audience who's joining us today, thank you so much for taking the time to be here. We always appreciate you listening in live. Bonus, you get to ask your questions. So don't be shy. Leave comments in the chat. Ask questions if you have them. If there's anything that you would like to know more, we love the curiosity. So feel free to bring it. Your insights and curiosity truly do make these conversations richer. Rachel, so grateful. Speaking of gratitude, grateful to have you here with us today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Like truly, it always feels like an honor to take time out and share the work, but like also just connect in with women, a love language. So thank you a ton.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I got to meet Rachel. I think it's been maybe a little over a year. I kind of just sought her out, fellow businesswoman in the community, a tremendous community builder, contributor, just so many alignments and like passion. And so it's just wonderful now to have gotten to know you over this last year and a half and to witness and see all the amazing things you've done for the city
And
and
partner with you. Like I think
Yeah.
that's the thing I love about so much of us and this work is like we start collecting the collaborators.
Yes.
You know, and so what we did with Startup Cincy Week together and just like, you know,
That was fun.
It's so important when women leaders show the impact and amplification that supporting and coming together with other women actually have versus the scarcity mindset so much of us have to unlearn. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I've been listening to this really good masterclass. It talks about the 49ers coach and how he says the score takes care of itself. And that has been like stuck in my head because the philosophy is that when you unite people with like a common sense of like value and trust and collaboration, like everyone goes farther and everyone moves farther faster. And so he was always never one about like looking at the scoreboard and saying like it's all about this. I mean, the stats are important, sure, the metrics are important, but at the end of the day, right, it's like that. And it was such a big unlock for me to help me sort of begin to articulate what it means to have and even build community because it mobilizes so many. And really, truly, the success almost takes care of itself when you're open enough to show up and be a part of community. So I know both of us share that passion, and we probably could have a whole nother podcast conversation on community.
Okay, 2025, watch out.
Right? We're bringing it.
The rising tide lifts all boats.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
I mean, we're better together for sure.
Absolutely. So I want to get into gratitude though, because I do think that's something that's it's a fantastic practice of yours. I see it and you don't just say it, you do it, all the time, whether you're in person with people or through your social media channels. You definitely are a person who practices gratitude. And I just love seeing that being modeled and reminding me. We've got a lot of listeners and members here who are reshaping their careers and considering transitions. And you have made quite a few, my friend. And I'm curious to hear from you how gratitude has guided you on your own sort of maybe more pivotal career decisions.
Yeah. So can I just reverse quickly and just maybe share a little bit? Would it be important to like maybe just quickly bio of the things?
Please.
And then it'll lay forward that answer because one, I think gratitude is me. I am it, right? It's been a practice that I've had since I was 7, 8, or 9. Like it was given to me very young and I'm thankful for that. But I started my entrepreneur journey in 2010, literally starting a company called Grateful Grams, whose mission it was to spread the message of gratitude and build community. I always said with Grateful Grams, we were a gratitude company that made a cookie. We weren't a cookie company that talked
Yeah.
about gratitude. And from there, we opened the Incubator Kitchen Collective. It's a nonprofit shared use commercial kitchen space for food entrepreneurs. We have Good and Local, which is our food show and food education program. Power to Pursue is my love. It's a women's empowerment movement that we've been building here in the last 4 years, with the mission to create a safe space for women to be seen, heard, and loved in. And then there's this Rachel bucket where I do a lot of speaking and consulting. I have a book coming out, a gratitude journal coming out. And so, Amy, back to that question of how has it, gratitude has caught me every single time I have fallen down.
Love that.
I had a call this morning. I spoke in Italy in December. And so I just did a mentoring session
So
with one of the
cool.
entrepreneurs there. And she said, I get stressed, right? And then I also think that I can't stop working. And even in that, which is such a common thing, I think for founders,
Yes.
right? Like we're workaholics, is that gratitude starts laying groundwork for you to actually see what's being done, because we're so much in thinking about the 32 things that have to be completed. And in all reality is like, we have clean drinking water.
Yeah.
I have a laptop that I can call and do this podcast with you. My house is warm, and so it's this opportunity, because I truly believe like the lack or the path of abundance starts with that. Like if you are a creator who wants more, if you want more income, if you want more connections, if you want more time with your kids, like it doesn't matter what the more is.
Right.
If you're not looking at what is actually already happening and taking place and the riches that you actually already have at your fingerprints, we're missing the whole point.
Yep. Yep. See, already you got me feeling more grateful. We're like, not what, 5 minutes in? You're so right. And it's like the law of attraction, right? The things that you pay attention to and the things you give gratitude to, like you find more abundance in that. And I do think as a business owner, scarcity mindset is such an easy place to get into, right? Because you might be limited on
We're
resources
unfunded.
and
We
right.
need a staff of 10 and we can afford somebody 10 hours a week. Like,
Right.
welcome to entrepreneurship.
Uh-huh. Absolutely. So I do think your mindset here really just breathes a whole lot of new life and perspective into, how we look at our work and the business that we do. So even if you don't own your business and you work at a job that you're kind of like quasi miserable, it's so easy to notice the negative, right? Our brains are sort of pre-programmed, right? For the sake of survival to notice the negative and
you have the
kind of
power to reprogram.
yes, and to find gratitude, because I think also when you find gratitude, you're more prone to see the opportunities because you're not always looking at the
Amen.
barriers and roadblocks.
Yeah.
So good. So obviously you've built a couple communities from scratch, as you mentioned earlier, as you were kind of giving us a quick rundown in your bio. I'm curious if you could share some insights with our members about what it means to create or how they can begin to create more authentic connections in a increasingly virtual world. A lot of our members and listeners are working with teammates that they may never be in the same room with, or be managing people that they're not in the same room with. What are some ways that you have found to kind of make those authentic connections happen?
The thing that I say that nobody likes to hear is you've got to show up.
Amen.
And it's hard. You don't think we're not all tired?
Right.
I'm a single mom, 3 kids, like,
Yep.
having the time of her life. And I have to show up. I still have to show up, whether it's virtually and whether it's in person. But when you get asked, when you get an offer, when you have an opportunity, you have the choice in that moment to take it or not. And what I know is on the most exhausted nights when I've pushed, I've met one person who's made a difference for me. I've made one connection. It isn't about 32 connections. It's about one singular connect.
Yes.
And the power that one person can have on everything for you. And the ripple. And so, it's the behind the scenes work of what's holding you back from showing up.
Yeah.
you don't feel like you belong, you don't feel worthy, you have fear of missing out. It's the juggle. You get invited to so much. How do you choose?
Yeah.
Ask yourself. And it's kind of like when you spin the map. You remember as a kid, you'd spin
Yeah.
the
The
map and
globe.
and be okay with where that lands.
Hmm.
Because there is also like a dating in this connection community place
Absolutely.
too. Whether it's with your team, whether it's with friends, where you have to kind of massage out a little to say like, where are my people?
Hmm.
That's what I think is so empowering with Power to Pursue is that's the thing I've heard the most, but I
Hmm.
think I hear it's because the women that are showing up aren't coming with the lens that I'm the best.
Yeah.
The women are coming and showing up with, oh my gosh, I can meet like-minded women who
Yes.
I know will listen to me and who I can feel safe enough to ask for help. And so yeah. Mm.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's about being intentional. It is showing up 100,000%.
It's the hardest part.
It absolutely is. And it's sort of even like, gosh, again, get back to that. Like, our reading group within Together Digital is some of us are rereading, some of it are reading it for the first time, James Clear, Atomic Habits. And one tool for this might be, say you do struggle with some social anxiety and maybe you've been burned before by other groups or other people. He had an example of this gentleman that literally was like obesely overweight, like hundreds of pounds.
Yeah.
And he decided that he was going to just show up to the gym, drive to the gym, pull into the parking lot, and then drive home a couple of times. He's like, I might not get up and go in, but I can at least show up. And there
Yeah.
was something about showing up that really helped him be like, okay, well, now I'm going to get in and I'm going to go to the gym and I'm only going to stay for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And so he gradually increased his time. So even if it's a little bit of like a mindset trick to yourself to say, okay, I really don't necessarily feel up to going to this said event. However, I'm going to go for 30 minutes and then I'm going to if it's not going well, if I just need the time away, then like take it. But I think also being intentional, right? Like you were saying, surrounding yourself with the kinds of people who are going to let you show up and be yourself, right? So you don't have to have the extra exhaustion of
Yeah.
putting on the mask and feigning, to be somebody that you're not. And I think that's what I love about both of our communities. It feels very
Yes.
similar. I got to go to my first Power to Pursue last year and
Yeah.
excited for this year to really get to be in a very similar space where there's just no pretense. The women can truly show up as themselves and it just doesn't feel contrived or forced. It just truly feels real and authentic. And it's sad to say, but that's such a rare thing. So kudos to you for creating that space because,
Thank you.
it's not easy. We're societally conditioned to just be overburdened constantly in our own
Well,
minds.
it's head to heart work.
Yeah.
You can listen to this or you can drop down and be in your body and listen to this.
Love it.
And
Yep.
so that's always my goal is how do I
Mm-hmm.
get out of here and into here?
Mm-hmm.
And the other part of that, Amy, is I think we think it's like an all or nothing.
Yes.
And, I love that example because it's
Mm-hmm.
taking this big thing and it's bringing it down to like that micro level,
Yeah.
right? And so I'm going to go to this thing for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And if I feel safe and if I feel grounded, I'm going to let myself stay for another 15,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so it's not black or white and we want it
No.
to be black or white, right? Like
Right.
we want it to be in this pretty little box with a
Uh-huh.
bow and it's so
Right.
cute and
Yeah.
that's not
That whole attachment to outcome is another big thing. I mean, for me, even if I show up and it's a total bust, I learned something. So it's like I didn't
yes.
lose by
If
doing
you're
this.
present, you will learn.
I learned something. Yeah. And if I stay, usually I'm really hella happy I stayed at the end because like you said at the very beginning, it's sometimes all it takes is one connection. I mean, I would not be sitting here doing this and this work if it wasn't for one connection that helped get me into Together Digital that eventually led to me running and then owning the business. It's just
Yes.
literally walking into one room, one connection. And I think again, if you
That's
kind of
what it
have
takes.
that mindset.
And I think the more that we as the leaders share that, the more
Yeah.
it normalizes what's possible.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right? So like the vulnerability to say, this is how I did it, or this is why I did
Yeah.
it, to give permission to anyone who's holding themselves back.
Yep. Agreed. Absolutely. All right, let's get back to gratitude a little
Oh
bit more
yeah.
because I think some people tend to see it as a bit of a soft skill, which I'm like, in a very results driven industry like, ours with Together digital marketing, advertising, and technology. I'm kind of curious, obviously you're running businesses. There are still metrics and data that you have to kind of hit. Could you maybe share a specific example of its impact on sort of your business outcomes, the practice of gratitude?
Well, yeah, I'm still here.
Right? Still in
Like,
business. How many businesses now?
I've been told that I'm never going to make money because how do you make money off of gratitude? Right. And
Yeah.
so the work is still the work.
Mm-hmm.
The work is still the work, but the practice can amplify the work. Right. And
Yeah.
so when we brought on an investor and he stole all of my money,
Oh, that's right. I remember you telling me about that. Oh my gosh.
I fell deep into my practice
Yeah.
because I still owned 100%. We never
Yes.
signed anything.
Mm-hmm.
My family was safe. My kids
Yeah.
were still being able to get food on the table.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I I survived that, right?
Right?
And
That's a
so
lot to go
I
through.
I think that there's those case by case scenarios
Yeah.
way too often.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I tell this story often, but I remember when we closed Grateful Grams in 2023. So when we were doing our first national launch with Kroger, we were going into 90 Whole Foods
Wow.
stores. I'm sorry. Whole Foods picked us up in the Mid-Atlantic region. And so we were in 5 or 6 stores. At this time, we still did all hand production at a time.
Wow.
And my brother at the time was our production manager. And we had 2 weeks to produce 52,000 cookies,
Wow.
all by hand. We had no machines, those little
Yeah.
cookie scoopers, girl, man,
Yep.
they loved to see me coming because like, they're like, yep, here's another 12. And I remember him looking at me and going, I need you to bake the last 4 trays of peanut butter chocolate chip bites. Then all the peanut butter bites are done for this order and we can move on to the next flavor. I
Mm-hmm.
burnt every single one of them.
Oh no.
Right?
Oh no.
So like gratitude reminded me
Mm-hmm.
I didn't put the company out of business.
Right.
I can run and buy more peanut butter.
Right.
I have to ask for help.
Yes.
This idea that I can do it all
Mm. Yeah.
is no longer true.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Absolutely.
So like every single time I've hit that roadblock, that barrier, the joy and jubilation, it goes both ways. This isn't a get me out of the darkness, though it is, right? Gratitude always, the way that I think and talk about it is like gratitude's that little glimmer. No
Yeah.
matter how dark it gets, there's a little glimmer possible.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but it's also for me equally as important to reflect back, like those Friday posts that I put on Instagram is this idea that I'm looking back every single Friday at
Yeah.
my week, the people that I got to talk to, the impact, what didn't work, what
Mm-hmm.
did work, right? And just normalizing the fact that growing stuff's hard and exhausting
Yeah.
and really effing
It
beautiful.
is amazing. You're absolutely right. I mean, in that case, Rach, I really just feel like not just once, but maybe even twice, like gratitude saved your business at the end of the day.
Gratitude
Because you
saved
could have
my
quit.
life.
You could have quit. You could have just said, I'm
So
done.
I have written closing letters for
Uh-huh.
3 out of 4 of my companies.
Oh my
Middle
gosh.
of the night, wake up, 2:00 in the morning, absolutely panicked, drenched in sweat. I'm
Yeah.
done.
Uh-huh.
I remember calling my dad. I had Grateful Grams and Incubator Kitchen. So this was probably 7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And I remember calling him and just saying, I'm done. I'm done suffering.
Oh.
It's too hard. There's nothing left for me to give up. I gave up because we were unfunded. I started it all with $1,000 in 2010. And so I gave up the fun. I gave up the cool clothes. I
Yeah.
gave up being able to buy my kids full price stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We ate a lot of beans and rice. And I said, I just don't think there's nothing left in the tank.
Yeah.
And he said, you can give up and I'll support you.
Oh.
Or you can take the weekend to rest.
Right?
Close the computer, write the letter, get it out of your body,
Right.
move it, then close the computer and tell everybody, I'll be back on Tuesday.
Yep.
If it's on fire, you can text this person, but I need to just walk away from all of it. And especially, I think there's so much fear that you can actually step away from it. If I take a day off, the whole thing's going to crumble.
Yeah.
That's a truth that you can choose to believe or not, right? And so I know that to not be true anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You got to walk away for 15 minutes and then 30 minutes and then an hour.
Right.
You know, I'm 15 years into entrepreneurship this year, Amy, and last year I took a 2-week vacation in the summer. Yeah. I've never been able to do that.
That's amazing.
You know, so again,
awesome.
like going back to like this idea of with my dad and him reminding me that I was up here.
Yeah.
And I was making decisions from my headspace, right? And that if I could just rest for a weekend. So then when I came back on Tuesday, the dust settled.
Yeah.
The fear settled. The exhaustion was gone.
Yeah.
And I was able to come and just take a big deep breath, get back into my body and go, okay, what do I have to do today? Not this week.
Right.
Not next week.
Yeah.
But like what is important to get done right here and right now?
Absolutely.
And to me, that to me is gratitude in action. Because it's allowing the muck to be there. You know, when I teach it, I always say like gratitude's like, you've gone through the hard thing, right? Like the fear, the pain, the trauma, the death, the business closure, you got fired, you have a sick kid. It doesn't matter. And I think women are notorious for comparing. Her trauma was not, my trauma wasn't as bad as her trauma. Yeah. Right? Like, I can't say anything because she had this experience and I only had this experience. And so gratitude does not care. It does not matter the size. Right. And so you have this fear, you have this pain, you have this anxiety, you have whatever. And gratitude just comes and sits right there.
I love it.
Just, sup, girl?
Yeah.
You okay? It's okay. I'm just going to take a moment here. And in that moment, you know, you can't push through the question, what are you grateful for? That's one of the most important parts of it, in my opinion. Yeah. So if you allow that to come and that question of what are you grateful for, the first thing that you do is take a breath in. Oh, wait. Yeah. So what does that mean? Like, you get a little present. You get a little still. This isn't a 17 minutes. It's a 30 second. It's a 10 second. So you have to get back in your body for that response to come. You can't run. Right. That's where the magic is. Yeah. Showing up and then sticking around. Gratitude to show up, gratitude to stay. I love that. And so wonderful to have like your dad there to support you in that way. I love that guy. That's so wonderful. And I can see just where a lot of that like wisdom has been passed down to kind of get you to slow down and be like, it doesn't have to be everything. It's not black and white. It's not the end all. It's not the be all. We fall into these mind traps so often because, again, like you said, I think we can all relate. We get so caught up in our own heads. Yeah. And I know we've talked a lot in the past about like rumination and how a lot of us struggle with that, right? You know, throw menopause on top of that and nobody's sleeping. Right? So really, I think you're right. Gratitude is a way to bring yourself back to being present. So if you struggle with rumination or anxiety in the moment, you can practice gratitude. And it's kind of like, it's like Kegel exercises. Nobody knows you're doing it and you can just do it and you're going to be, I tell people like, where you are. If you are the person that needs the special pen and notebook, permission granted to order it or buy it. If you have a text with your friends, you know, note app, pen and paper, like allow the practice to meet you where you are. It doesn't have to be any other way, you know, and to talk on that stress and anxiety, Amy, the question I come back to time and time and time and time and time again, especially when I get into that space is what is real? Yeah. what's
Yeah.
real,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah. I love it.
Because you got to
So
cut through the noise.
I
Yeah.
want to throw in a bonus question then too, because I do want to get into this. I look forward to your Friday posts. I think they're always so inspiring and and I know when you're doing them, you're not doing it for everybody else. You're doing it just as much for you as
Yeah.
everybody else. But I think
I
like
still
doing it
practice.
socially, right, is there's
Yeah.
like it keeps you accountable. Because I don't know what I would think. I'd probably be calling to check on you if I didn't see a Friday post, right? So that's kind of your way.
Yeah.
And you might have other ways, but give our listeners a couple of different ways in which they can begin to kind of practice
Well,
gratitude. You
I
alluded to
will
some, but
shamelessly plug this, and I
yeah,
will shamelessly plug it
please
because
do.
the publisher came yesterday and
Yay!
brought me um, the
There it
first
is.
hard official copy. So we just pushed the full order in
That's so
yesterday,
beautiful.
but I published two book projects this quarter. One is a memoir, and it is coming. Pre-orders close this week for that. This journal was in companion, so the publisher said, you really need to put a gratitude journal out there, girl. And
Absolutely.
I fought with that, Amy. I fought with it because, in my head, I'm like, nobody needs that. They need a pen and paper.
Yeah.
But I have done gratitude groups, private groups, challenges. I've went into classrooms and taught it. And the thing that I'm proud of with this is that there's a level of prompt.
Mm-hmm.
There's light post, there's 90 days of light post
Love
here.
it.
From your bed. I love my bed. It's my sanctuary in the season. One of my best friends, Tara, came over after my divorce and helped me create my sanctuary, a
Mm,
room I could feel safe and restored. I'm grateful for her. But now, what about you? From your bed, can you see 5 things that you're grateful for just in your bedroom?
mm-hmm.
Again, bringing it back into these micro pieces.
Yep.
And so I'm so excited that this is going to be
Yay.
out in the world. I can't
Where can
even
people
believe
get
it.
it? We need to know.
You can go to the Gratitude Collective website. There
Okay.
is a pre-order link.
We'll include that in the show notes.
If you find if you're following us, there's a book tour that will probably be coming late summer, but we
Huh?
most likely will be doing a big book launch. I know Jungle Gems wants to host
Oh,
something.
that's so
Numerous wants to
fantastic.
host something. Roebling Point Books wants to host
Oh,
something.
love that place.
So we're just going to start, getting it out there.
Wonderful.
It's really surreal.
Yeah.
I've been talking about it for so long, and now that
Mm-hmm.
it's really here,
Mm-hmm.
because there's a deep level of vulnerability. And even though I tell people all the time vulnerability is like one of my superpowers,
Mm-hmm.
this has like stripped me to the bone,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
The process, would you say that was like the process of the memoir more than the
Yeah.
gratitude?
And
Yeah.
like sharing the depth of truth that I pushed myself to write.
I love
And
it.
how, Stephanie she's been with me for, gosh, 16 plus years. And I joke that she knows where all the bodies are buried, right?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And, I had an editor, but then I brought her in as secondary editor because she pushed me deeper into my uncomfortable space.
Oh, that's
She's like,
fantastic.
you're only telling the gloss and we need behind the gloss, right? So, like,
Mm-hmm.
I know there's more here.
Mm-hmm.
And that process with her took almost a year because I would pick it up and then it would be
Yeah.
too much and I'd have to put it back down. And then
Yeah.
we'd be able to pick it up and then go back to it. And the book it really started when my mom was passing. She died in 2020 at the age of 63 from early onset Alzheimer's. And through her dying process, writing was my form of sanity and
Yeah.
sanctuary.
Mm.
And so I I wrote and people were telling me, wow, I didn't know death could look like this. I didn't know
Yeah.
grief was like how it was, because it's very, grief's like black and white, right?
Very
Like you're
defined.
alive
Yeah.
or you're
Very
dead. That's all
defined.
we know. Um,
Right.
and so, then once I started writing, it was going back into childhood and these girls that were
Mm.
so mean to me, and my
Yep.
dad like telling me like, no, your job's to love who you are. And then,
Mm.
I became a mom when I was young, and I
Mhm.
dropped out of college to take care of this kid. And Amy, that story I've never told publicly because, the shame and judgment that's
Sure.
still real. And
Yeah.
to face all of that, was brutal.
Right.
The
Oh, I love
divorce,
that. Beautiful.
was weaved into that, right? I was like, this was not going to be an ex-husband book. And then
Right.
that story changed my world in the most beautiful,
Mm.
incredible way. Like it is the most surreal hope I've had
Yeah.
with my marriage deteriorating,
Mm.
and the miracles that have come and continue to give me hope and light.
Yeah.
And so that's what that book is. It's called The Morning Light,
Love it.
Morning, Mouring. Ha, we're clever. And so, right, like, yeah, it's a real honor that I was sitting in this sunroom. I bought my parents' house. My mom died here, and
Mm.
this was her favorite room.
Oh.
And I remember looking at Ellis last year, my youngest, and
Uh-huh.
like tears streaming down my face. And I said, I think I did it. I think I wrote all of the words,
Oh, that
you
must have felt
know?
amazing. Good for
So
you. Good for you. I love that room too, by the way. That was my favorite
thank
room in your
you.
house. It's just like I just like, oh, I'm just gonna stay here. I'm gonna bring
Yeah,
a book next time. I'm just gonna
you are
curl up in the
always
couch in the
welcome.
corner.
Please do. Please. I would love
I
to
see
have
why she
you.
liked it. I see why
Yeah.
she liked it. That's just so amazing, Rachel. And I think it just shows you what a gift vulnerability is, not to those that you share it with, but to yourself.
Hmm.
At the end of
Yeah.
the day, it takes so much courage, but it's like, I love that word, brutal. I'm going to use that for
That
sure.
was a Glennon Doyle.
Of course it
Of course.
was.
I'll give credit where credit's due.
Yeah,
That was a Glennon, and it captures so much, right? Like it
it
captures the in and
does.
out breath. Like
Oh, I love it. Like
it's the
skited is another one of my favorite words of hers. I was scared and excited at the same time because yeah, sometimes it is it's a mash of
truth.
all these things. Because as we know too, another favorite of all of ours is Brene Brown, like Atlas at the Heart, and that book just to give you language about
Take me to
emotions that we
church.
don't even have
Yeah.
in the English language was just astounding. So highly recommend you all check both of those amazing women out because I do think maybe that is part of the challenge, right? And I think why we do need your gratitude journal, Rachel, is because we don't always know how to express those very complex
The
feelings
ego says
because
it can't be that easy. The ego
right.
tells you there's no way that
Mm.
thinking of 3 things a day to be grateful for is going to do anything for you.
Oh, you'd be amazed. Yeah.
And I will tell you, there's nothing more powerful
Hmm.
than finding 3 things a day to be grateful for if
Yeah.
you want a richer life.
Hmm. Agreed. Agreed. I do that practice with my kids. My daughter was struggling with sleep anxiety for a while. And the
Yep.
way we got through that was what are 3 things you're grateful for every night, right before bed? And she's held me to it after all these years. I kind of thought we'd drop the practice. And then I just picked it up and started doing it with her brother. And you're right, it is amazing because it's like once you kind of get into the practice, it doesn't take much. And then you
It's
just find yourself
possible.
doing it on a more regular basis. It's a new habit.
Yeah.
It's a new
Like,
habit.
you guys, if you're going to go run a marathon, you don't just go buy new shoes and get to run it, right?
Right.
Like you may go, I'm going to walk a mile today in the
Hmm.
shoes I have and try to
Yeah.
maybe run for 10 seconds. And so
Hmm.
it's the same thing with gratitude. You have to allow the muscle to
I love
develop.
it.
And so if you start today,
Hmm.
look how much farther ahead you'll be.
Exactly. Oh, I love that analogy. It's a great analogy. You talked about the process of writing your book and then sort of wanting to kind of have or maintain that glossy image, which we all understand. Like you said, the ego kind of tends to get in the way. I'm curious when you're running a business, how do you balance intuition and gratitude with that kind of perception of and desired success, right? You don't start a business and say, I
Well,
want to
first, I
fail.
think you define success for you.
Mm,
We missed that step. We
yeah.
think success is a big bank account
Hmm.
and, Apple Watches. And,
Right.
success for me for a long time was being able to pay my bills on time.
Right? Feels good.
Success was being able to take a draw out. So I had
Mhm.
a little vacation money.
Yeah.
So first step is, what is success for you? I said to somebody, I was like, I think I want to be a billionaire. I said,
Mhm.
for a long time, I was like, I could be a millionaire.
Yeah.
I'm not there. And I said, but like, why not?
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
look at what I've built from pennies. Could you imagine if I had
Yeah.
dollars to
I
build?
know, right?
Like,
If
holy
you
moly,
only would fund us, people.
impactor, right?
Oh,
Like,
100%.
it allows me. And so, how it is it weaved into my business is it is the
Yeah.
business.
Mhm.
They're not separate. There isn't a bank account and then a gratitude account. It's
Right.
all together. And
Mhm.
so defining success has allowed me to realize on the really shitty months or on the really positive months,
Yeah.
it's all okay. We need all of it. That's the duality of life and living.
Yes.
And so it's weaved in by empowering a team to do their best,
Mhm.
and me being willing to meet them where they're at and help them where we all need to go.
Yes.
It's in talking through my team and allowing the whole human to be there,
Mhm.
right? It's asking for help,
Yeah.
because we think as entrepreneurs we have to know it all. In
Yeah.
part, you do, right?
Sure.
But there's people out there that want to help you. A
Mhm.
lot more people that want to help you that want to hold you back.
Yeah.
And so I think, Amy, it's all in one piece, right? Like, they're
Mhm.
not separate for me.
Yeah.
And what that has allowed me to do is show up every day and do work that I believe in,
Yeah.
that I want to use to change the world.
Mhm.
And the work in getting there was allowing all of me
Mhm.
to be in the work.
Yeah.
And we want to be like, I talk about the hats, right? Like, okay,
Yeah.
I was a wife, I'm a mother, I'm an aunt, I'm a community leader, I'm an author, I'm a speaker, I'm a CEO, I'm a founder, I'm an executive director.
Mhm.
What I really am is just Rachel.
Yep. I
And
love
what would
that.
happen if I took all the hats off?
Mhm.
And I said, Rachel's here today, and Rachel's going to do her best job. That meant therapy.
Yeah.
It meant spiritual advisors.
Mhm.
It meant lots of dark nights of the soul.
Mhm.
It meant losing my marriage. It
Mhm.
meant losing friends,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
it allowed me
Mhm.
to become. And
I
so
love it.
now there's no,
Yeah.
it all just is.
Yeah. We do try to really over compartmentalize. I feel that so much when I was still working in the industry, and like life would just take a crazy, crazy turn, or things at work got really, really complicated, and it was just hard. Because you do, when you try to compartmentalize, it's like you're taking time to suppress
Yeah.
things that really truly need to be addressed. Which can be hard to do, right? Because some people might see certain things as like, well, okay, I can't,
She can, I can't.
right, exactly, because you're
You
modeling certain
choose that,
things,
right? Like,
right.
again, I tell people all the time, you choose a lot of your own suffering,
Mhm. Yeah. Oh my
right?
gosh,
You guys,
yes.
there's no high horse here. There's
Right.
no, I'm holier than thou.
Yeah.
I will tell you about every time I fall,
Right?
right? I will tell you about every failure. I will tell you about every burnt cookie. Because
Yeah.
it's not about a higher superiority.
No.
It's about me loving who I am.
Mhm. I love it. Well, I definitely say with modeling, you bring gratitude into the workplace, but for those who are listening today, what are some ways that they might be able to bring gratitude into the workplace as like a mindset, as a practice, even if they're not the leader, right? Because we have a lot
What
of
if
folks
you
that are
started
listening
the
that are.
meeting and then before you jumped into the work, you actually let the work happen? And so what if you round robin that question? Hey,
Mm,
before we start the meeting today, we're just going to quickly go in a circle and everybody needs to say one thing they're grateful for.
mhm.
Hey, you're doing a one-on-one. Before we do that, I'm going to let you know 3 things I'm grateful for
Oh,
about
I love
you.
that.
You know,
Mhm. Yeah.
hey, we've got a wall of Post-it notes, and we're going to make it accessible. So when you're
Mhm.
in this office, you could just come and post what you're grateful for. Because all
Yeah.
of a sudden, too, again, it goes back to that mirroring that you've talked about, which is
Mhm.
so beautiful. that you can start seeing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I tell people all the time, like somebody goes, "You're not good at it." Like, I don't have a boat. I don't have a boat.
Yeah.
You know, there's
Yeah.
a boat. And also, I want a friend with a boat. I don't want a boat.
Right.
And
Same.
so, like, it's not about the boat.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the breath.
Yeah.
It's not about the new car. It's about clean drinking water.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not about this guy got a promotion. It's about that I'm like in clothes that make my body feel confident.
Yes.
Holy Amy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's such a good unlock. It's such a good unlock. I love it. It just allows for so much. And yeah, you just come in better for it. On that note, burnout, the word gets thrown out so much that I think we're all burnout on the word burnout, but it's like, what else do we call it? What are some ways that we could maybe leverage latitude or gratitude, not latitude? Clearly it's Friday.
Yeah. But also that's true too.
Right?
It
is true. Both can be true. To really help people kind of work through, when you're it feels like you're going nonstop. How can gratitude help you navigate the complexities of it feels like just day-to-day life sometimes without burning out?
Well, I think it goes back to reflecting on you. I think sometimes in the burnout space, it's because we're so forward thinking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And gratitude brings us back to the moment,
mm-hmm.
right? Like we all want to solve tomorrow's problem today.
Yeah.
I also think that, I will be crass, like welcome to entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Like there is a juggle there, right? There is a hustle. And I don't want to push everybody to burnout, but what I want to share is every time I didn't think I could, what happened was my capacity was allowed to deepen. So pushing to the brink might not be so bad.
Yeah.
If you realize that you can deepen your capacity.
Yep.
So I can hold more.
Mm-hmm.
I can hold more energetically, spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally. Burnout helped me in a way to be able to get there.
Yep.
The other thing is self-check that burnout with your ego going, my mind's telling me I can't take a day off.
Right.
I have a Sabbath day once a week. Yep. And I'm not good if I don't have it.
Mm-hmm.
That might look different. I might not be able to have a full day, but it might mean that Saturday and Sundays I don't get out of bed until 10.
Yeah.
I drink water. I think, that is one of the top self-care tips I give all the time. You're dehydrated. Mm-hmm. Period.
Yeah.
I go to bed at 8:00. Mm-hmm. My kids tuck me in.
I love it.
And so there's things that I have learned and allowed to help me shelter some of the burnout.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's also very clear seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know when I look at my year, I'm running January through May. Mm-hmm. Right? Yep. I put a break in there. Like I'll take a long weekend. Mm-hmm. June is recoup. Yeah. July is pool time.
Yep.
August, I'm running for the races through November.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Right? And so if I know, I can do something about it. Yeah. So the long weekend, I do a long weekend in October with some girlfriends. And so it's not that you have to leave the city. Right. There's days that I don't get out of bed. Right. I love the Christmas holiday break because I think I watched a ridiculous, shameful amount of movies over Christmas break this year. I mean, Netflix, can you please drop some new stuff? Because I'm pretty sure I've watched
Run out.
And so, I think it's that. It's understand, and guess what? Nothing crashed and burned. No. And the other thing I bring into that is someone said to me, if you don't learn to rest your team, you will run through your team because they will be 100%. So burned out. So by me learning, and that was one of the best lesson, I think that was, I don't know if it was 23 or 24 that came in. Yeah. what that allowed me to do was realize as a leader, when I rest, they get caught up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's really important to my
Yeah.
ecosystem.
Well, and how beautiful is it to, as somebody who's running and leading a business and a team, to know that you have trust in them, they have trust in you, and you can kind of just take your hands off the wheel for a moment,
Yep.
and you don't go off course. You stay on the road, and sometimes, like you said, things happen, and sometimes they
It's
get like that
empowering for
chance.
them
It
to
really
step in,
is. And then
right?
when you walk back, it's like, it's not like, at least for me, it's not like an ego hit to be like, oh, they didn't need me after all. No, they still
No, I'm like,
need
thank
me.
God you didn't need me. I'm
But
taking 3 weeks next time.
right? It's beautiful. It's a really, to me, that's a sign of success. And I was going to say too, as you were speaking about kind of going through really difficult, challenging, sometimes even traumatic experiences, I think those have been the times that have pushed me to make my hardest decisions that,
Absolutely.
maybe I otherwise wouldn't have made. And I would have just kind of stayed in the sameness or safety and not made leaps and bounds.
Yep.
But by looking back at what I've learned through kind of the difficult things in my life, it's like, no, I'm kind of grateful. It was hard and it sucked. And I would prefer not to go through it again. But there is a sense of gratitude there because I came out a different person, a stronger person. I definitely had some growth. I've said it so many times too, but like, if you ever want to get your ass handed to you or kicked, run a business, start a business, and just
Oh my
like, you're
gosh.
going to learn so much about yourself.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, it's like a marriage. You're waking up every day and deciding, am I going to keep going or am I just going to call it off and say I'm done? Like you said, and actually one of our mutual friends, Crystal Rayner, always says, like, she's like, I quit every day. I quit every damn day.
Yeah. You
I
gotta learn
love
how to
it.
walk away from it. I challenge myself as often as I can to be done with work when I pick the kids up by 3.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And part of that is when I'm 15 years in and I sacrificed a lot of that
Yeah.
time with them in the front end. And so now's my time to kind of make up for a little bit of that.
Yeah.
And I have teenagers now, so they're like, really, Mom, we don't want to hang out with you. You're not that cool. And
But
so, like it's just a fun dance that we get to do.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I love, it's so funny, like your seasons and my seasons very similar. It took me about 3 years of business ownership to sort of see the trends
Yeah.
and I love it because like my kids' spring and fall break align with both of those kind of trends and seasonality. So everyone knows like, yeah, this week in what's in March, this week in October, usually in the mountains with my kids where you can't reach me via cell or internet. It's such a tremendous thing. And so on that note of like taking rest and a Sabbath, as you mentioned, Elizabeth, one of our live listeners, hey, Elizabeth, thanks for asking. She loves the idea, but she's kind of wanting more details on what that means for you. And she says it's so hard with all these Sunday reset videos.
Yeah. One, I don't watch those.
Right?
So turn those off. There's no reset. So what does a Sabbath day look like for me? Is that the question?
Yeah.
So good. When I got divorced, my ex-husband would bring me tea every morning, right? So the first thing I did when I got divorced was get an electric kettle that I can turn on from an app on my phone.
Sweet.
So that when I finally do wake up,
Uh-huh.
I turn that on and I take a long, slow hour
I
drinking
love
my
it.
tea,
That's
right?
wonderful.
Then I go, am I needing to be in community? Like, do I need to have
Yeah.
a girlfriend over? Like, those dinners are a little more casual, a little more laid back, or do I just need to like be home? So like, I ask myself that question, mainly because I'm an extrovert and sometimes I need to be around the humans, right? To like
Yeah.
have that kind of bump that I need to feel my best. I typically will write out on Sunday on that day of rest of like what the next week looks like, that little bit of inventory. So I'm starting to like, I don't want to work. There's no work here. Am I taking the kids to a movie? Are we renting a movie on Amazon? I am not 99% of those days I am not cooking.
Yeah.
I am ordering DoorDash. We are going to dinner somewhere.
Yeah.
Which then again, too, is I think really reflective time with my kids, right? Like as they become teenagers, they just want food out.
Right.
Mom's not cooking. So, there's no expectation that anything has to get done on my
Yes.
Sabbath day. That's, I think,
That's
the
big.
thing, Elizabeth, is that a Sabbath day is not a Sabbath day if there's 17 tasks on it.
Right.
A Sabbath day is going, I'm okay with the piles of laundry and the dirty floor
Yeah.
and the messy bed.
Yeah.
And that's really hard because I also am like, this is my day. I've got to get it all done.
Right.
No, I need to do laundry. So I'm working from home tomorrow. I'm going to put the load in before my call starts.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's part of that look at what's happening and what might need to get done so
Right.
that I know, because otherwise I'm in my head.
Yeah.
And I'm telling myself, you have all the stuff that needs to get done. You shouldn't be resting. You
Yeah.
should not. That should word, man. Woo,
Shitting all over yourselves, as
that's
Lucretia
right.
would
And
say.
so, like, that little reflection shows me where I can put in the things that need to get done so that I can actually rest. And for me, if it's out of my head, then I
Yeah.
can come down. I also had to
Absolutely.
train myself. It didn't start with a whole day. It started with an evening. I used to work 15 hours a day was normal, 7 days a week. Like, I just never knew how to turn it off.
Yep.
And I'm up to a whole day.
I love it.
And I probably get 3 out of 4 of those in the month, right? Like, in all actuality, like, yeah.
I love it. No, I think being intentional and making time for rest, putting it on your calendar, is so important.
Yep. Yep.
As many of us live and die
God,
by
I
our
have to
calendars.
schedule my rest. Yeah, you schedule everything else.
Oh my gosh.
You
Well,
schedule
and then
time out in the dentist, and you schedule date nights with your husband. You
Yes.
schedule stuff with your kids. Like, get over it.
Right. Well, and then for me, it's like I have something to look forward to. I read a study a long time ago. Lots of you have probably heard it about the fact that like most of us are happiest the week before vacation, not while we're on vacation. It's everything about the anticipation and having something to look forward to, which is why my phone is filled with like multiple lists of awesome Airbnbs, because it's like I finished one thing. What's my next thing to look forward to?
Yes.
Because it's like I'm going to work my ass off the next 4 months. What can I put at the end of that tunnel that's a little bit of light to be there to like look forward to
Aligned.
and rest?
100%. Yeah.
So yeah, you got to plan for it. Oh my goodness. All right.
Yeah. Okay. Is there any more questions?
No, you're good. No, I was going to say, I want to make sure our live listening audience, if they've got more questions, they can definitely ask them. But I was going to jump to our power round questions. But before I do that, was there something else you wanted to say?
No, this is so great.
Okay. I know, right?
Yeah.
It's so fun. So yeah, audience, if you've got more questions like Elizabeth had, don't be shy, drop them in there. I'm going to go through the power round questions real quick. So these are kind of some fun, quick fire questions for you. What is your go-to practice during back-to-back meetings and things? Water. Oh, that's great.
Like,
I love it.
Yep, that's it.
I love it. That's fine.
Right? Like, because I think so much is like we have to have all of these practices and systems. No, I just need to like
make it simple, make it easier on yourself. Done.
This is with me everywhere. Like,
I love it.
People are like, it's like a safe security blanket at this point, So yeah,
it's fantastic. I love that. All right, quick gratitude reset when between your professional and personal life, which I feel like you don't separate much of the two based on how some of your earlier answers.
Yeah.
So there's like not a need for a reset, right? Because you're not forcing compartmentalization. Like, hey, there's a little bit of an unlock for y'all.
Yeah. It's pretty wild. Again, I've been practicing gratitude for over 30 years.
Yeah.
And so
you've gotten good at it.
Yeah. But if you start today.
Right? Exactly. You just got to start today. You just got to do that one little bit. Don't make it huge. It doesn't have to be everything in one.
3 things.
Love it. One way to show gratitude to a team member, whether that's in person or virtual.
Listen to them.
Yay.
Listen. Because if you listen, you're going to hear the worry and you're going to hear the fear. You're going to hear where they feel lost or stuck. And then you can be the gratitude in that light because you listened and then you're like, hey, I heard you, feel like you're a little stressed out. Is there anything, be of service?
Yes.
Here's a cup of tea.
Love it.
Here's a glass of water. Do you need anything else?
That's
what
beautiful.
What are you grateful for? Right?
That's so beautiful, Rachel, because we've talked about this before too on the podcast, how like I worked at a place where they wanted to know your love language. And I thought that was so strange, but that's such a wonderful way to listen and learn and understand how do people receive love, and which I would include that as like gratitude. Like, maybe I'm not incentivized by you just being like, you did a great job. Here's $100. Some people that's like, yay. Other of us want, that verbal, gratification or thank you, something as simple as that. And oftentimes we tend to, I would say we probably show up and show love and gratitude the ways we like to receive them. And so by listening, you're kind of treating others not how you would want to be treated. You're treating them how they want to be treated, which,
Meet people where they're at, not where you're at.
Yeah, I love that. That's such great advice. All right. My last one that I've got for you is best gratitude habit for staying positive during a ton of change, when things just kind of are like left and right, a lot out of your control.
It's actually doing the practice. Because again, it's going to make you present. You guys, your life is not in your control. Love you.
Right?
I love burst in that bubble. And the more you want to control it and strangle it, all that does is constrict and suffocate.
Yeah.
Like, allow the breath to be there. You're free there.
Yeah.
And so if it's hard, practice more.
Yeah.
Right? Like, what does the Buddha say? Like, if you don't have time to meditate for a minute, meditate for an hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's all what's real. Right? Like, if you are too busy, I will call bullshit.
Right.
Like, and so nobody's too busy for a 60-second practice. So maybe when it's really hard, push yourself, expand depth capacity. So instead of 3 things, it's 32 things that day.
Yeah.
Instead of 5 things, it's 12 things that you had that you were grateful for that day. Stretch and make the capacity deepen.
Yeah. And I love it too, because it's like often said, but I know you and I both listen to a lot of mindfulness and meditation and read a lot of the similar, like, literature and all that. So I want to say it, and hopefully not being too obvious to our listeners, but it's called a practice for a reason, right? Like it's just because you're showing up and you're, like you said, building that muscle.
Yeah.
It's not meant to be perfect every time. And then there's never going to be a time when you're perfect, because we know there's no such thing.
Why do you want to be perfect? You're beautiful. You're human.
Right? Yeah.
Right? Like, what?
Absolutely.
Perfection's not going to make you go farther or faster. Perfection's going to bury you in burden.
Yeah. Absolutely. It'll hold you up. Yeah. I agree. Well, you know what, friend? Thank you for showing up. And for doing this.
Thank you for giving me this space to show up to.
Absolutely. I always feel so lucky to be able to kind of, work with you and partner with you and see what you're doing, and then bring it to our group and the broader group of listeners. So
thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to share with them.
Of course, my absolute pleasure. And listeners, again, thank you for showing up and sticking it out. We know there's always a lot of things that are pulling on your time. And I don't know, I've just always felt every time I show up to things like this, I walk away feeling a whole lot happier that I did. So hopefully it was all well worth your time. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us this week. It's been a fantastic conversation, Rach. I really appreciate it. Excited to hang out soon. And everyone else, until then, hopefully you can join us next week. Until then, keep asking, keep giving, and keep growing. We'll see you all soon. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Produced by Heartcast Media.